Hello and welcome to this episode of The Game of Life, and this edition is very special because the gentleman in studio is a very good friend of mine, but also a very good friend of all sports lovers in the country. Now, this is a guy who perhaps you've heard him on your radio set, you've seen him on your TV. He's a guy who speaks languages, some of which you wonder whether it's from that particular people who speak that language. And when he starts talking, especially about sports, he hardly knows when to stop. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a guy who is very articulate with his voice, but also breathtaking with his pen. And sports and this man in studio are inseparable. With me, the one and only Ismail Dhakaba Kigongo. Did I get that right?
You did. Many people struggle with my middle name, Dhakaba, which some people find to be very rare, but it's also a bit nervous. I'm supposed to be on the other side.
I know.
I'm supposed to be on the other side. I'm used to asking questions. Okay, I don't ask many questions these days because I normally am trying to formulate opinions.
You're aging wisely.
Yeah.
You're aging wisely. But I think the first time I read your name in the byline in the newspaper, I mean, it was clear for me, Dhakaba. And I'm like, wait a minute, it's not Dhakaba. It's like when people say Mwanguhya.
Yeah.
No, I'm like, it's Mwanguhya. So they're like,
what is the S?
What's the S? I'm like, yeah, it's not Mwanguhya, it's Mwanguhya. We'll figure when we're telling my story what that means later.
Yeah.
Today, how does it feel, you not asking the questions and you're now on the firing squad?
Very different. I've done a few interviews where I'm on the other side, and it's never comfortable.
Yeah.
Never comfortable because I'm used to asking the questions or giving an opinion about something. Yeah, it's that missed opinion thing is something I've lived with from my teenage years. Yeah, but it's very different. I hope I tell the truth and nothing but the truth.
We'll figure truth every day.
So help me Allah.
So Ismail, Kodeyo.
Balio.
And I've heard you also speak very good Uganda.
Yeah, I was raised in Masaka.
Okay, but Kodeyo, Balio, that's Lusoga, right?
Or Lusoga Lwene.
I can hear most of it, hardly speak. But welcome to the Game of Life.
Thank you, Andrew. I've watched almost every episode that you've done. I think the last one I watched was Philip Obwini.
Yeah.
Someone I do relate with quite a bit, being at Villa, and also someone we work with in our job at Nation Media Group. So it's someone I know quite a bit. I've watched some very compelling interviews that you've done, right from the first one, Flavio Kecho. You know, I'm very good with dates, especially if it's a birthday. My elder son has a way he writes the birthdays on the calendar, so it helps me not to forget. So I'm never in trouble because he goes and circles and then writes Amira's birthday, Atif's birthday, Mama's birthday. So
that's a kill.
Yeah.
All right,
my elder son writes that. So, but I'm very good with dates that are sports related. Those tend to stick.
Okay.
A lot of the other things do not.
you mentioned Nation Media Group. Just for our viewers, Ismail Dhakaba, of course he'll talk about it himself more, but he's the head of sport at Nation Media Group, where I work. He is my very good supervisor. I joke with him sometimes. Himself and I work in an environment whereby the word boss is alien.
Very.
Bosses don't live in our lives, but it's the respect between the two people. So Ismail Dhakaba heads Nation Media Group Sports, and you're talking NTV, you're talking KFM, you're talking Spark, you're talking Daily Monitor, quite a number. Even Nation Korea.
No, they do sports.
But Ismail is one of the best, if not the best, sports journalist of my generation. And my generation, we are the millennials, right?
Yeah, sure.
Those are the ones between 1981 and 1996. Then Ismail is also that journalist who bridges the gap between the Maxalis into our generation. I don't know if I've missed anyone there, but Ismail, flowers to you when you're still alive.
Yeah.
And also the fact that you're my colleague.
Thank you.
Having you before me, I'm sure it must sound very funny. Me telling you this thing.
When you called me to come for this interview, I was thinking, now, Andrew. I find it much easier a lot of the time to speak to much younger journalists because sometimes I think maybe I can share a lesson, maybe they can share something with me because they're in an era where breaking stories is the mantra. Yeah. Yet I'm a bit old school. I'd rather comment about a story 3 days later when I've had all the sides and had an opportunity to think it through about the effect of this story to the people I'm going to relate to. So yeah, I like to speak to the younger ones. So when you called me to come for this, I was thinking, okay, this seat has had some great sports personalities.
Yeah.
Part of me does not think that I belong to that because my contribution to sport is largely telling the stories of those who play. People I have, most of them I have a lot of respect for, especially what I call inside the four lines. Some of their opinions outside the four lines I have no respect, but when they comment about what happens inside the four lines, I have a lot of respect because they have something I don't. First of all, talent. They have, then they've had the opportunity, then they've dared and done. Yeah, so when you told me to come for this, I didn't know what to expect, but... And
I told you, you don't have to prepare.
Yeah.
I have a very long list of guests for this. And for our viewers, the Game of Life is 80% sports, 20% the rest. Now you'll have guests like Ismail Dhakaba, who crisscrosses.
Yeah.
His sports, not as an athlete, but someone who tells the sports.
Yeah.
And for me, you're not his biggest fan, but you are the Jose Mourinho of sport. You're not known for playing it.
No,
but you talk about it very well. Now, Mourinho, of course, he didn't play to that highest level, but he's one of those who first stood out and won big things, beating everyone else who played the game, but from the dugouts.
Yeah, the bad thing is that Mourinho Yamala. He's done.
Yeah, he's done.
He's done.
We'll talk about
by the time he walked out of Madrid, he was done. Yamala.
So he's now on a residual income.
Yeah. Okay. But luckily, when Sadia is being sacked and paid every time.
Ismail, we'll get into the meat of it.
Yeah.
I mean, you've done commentary, both English and Luganda. You've been at almost every Luganda radio station. Radio station I've listened to. Yeah. You've been almost on every TV. You've written, of course, the other TVs mainly to contribute and all, but also because of your opinion, you are invited at different fora. And all.
Sure.
But I don't want us to get into that. You have quite a following out there. People hold you in high regard in sports and your opinion.
Alhamdulillah.
And they want to know personally, even though I know you, I also want to know where this whole thing started. Because I'd love to know how you're not as old as Max Sally, but you're also gifted in telling the story, not just in one discipline. You're multi-talented in terms of the different disciplines that you tell your story. Where did this all start? And I want us to go straight to a place where I walked past when I was going to Mbale. Take me there.
I was born in what by then was Iganga district. Nazaliwa mu kyalo. I'm not born in Kampala. My parents, both teachers. Haji passed on a few years ago. Yeah, but that's where I start because raised in the village, born in the 80s when the current president Museveni was trying to take power. We're born during the war. At the time, at least I know from my parents, my dad and mom had worked in Nakasongola Yeah. Then when the war started, they left. So they decided to go and settle at our ancestral home. Sometimes I wish they had stayed in the war because then I wouldn't be hustling. Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe my dad would have made his way to State House and you know how these things work. Yeah. But not every collaborator of the war is doing well. You know how.
Yes.
Some of them are struggling. So my parents tell me when the war started, they had to leave that Luero Triangle and went back to present-day Bugweri district. By then it was part of Iganga. So they settled in Nachibembe, and then eventually my dad was headmaster of Wairaka College. That's actually the school where Joshua Cheptegei studied.
Okay.
Yeah, he was a headmaster there. And I was born around that time because the war wasn't that much outside. So my early years were spent in the village. When I didn't understand what the world is. Then, late 80s, early 90s, my mom and dad got jobs in Masaka. Now, that's where my entire life, that's when my memory starts to recollect.
Because which class are you at that time?
No nursery school, first of all.
Yeah, I also didn't do that.
No nursery school. My children have done nursery. I wish I could get a refund. So when they moved to Masaka, I started primary school at Hill Road Public School. When those who hail from Masaka, after Masaka Secondary School, and you continue up the hill as you're going to a place called Bwala, the school is on the right. One of the memories I have is that the school hardly had windows, but that's where all of us, my siblings, except the eldest did not go there, but the rest of us, my elder brother, my late elder sister, we all started our school at Hill Road. And we lived right outside Masaka Recreation Center. Liiku, as we know it.
Yes.
We lived right outside Liiku. And this is, we are talking 1991. At the time, SC Villa played at Liiku every single day. So as the young boy, you're 6, 7 years, there used to be an avalanche, maybe between 6 and 10, who used to spend our life watching Villa train. That's when we got Magid Musisi. Yeah, because I used to watch Villa train almost every single day. And I was part of a very wide group of children around Liiku who would throw the ball to Magid. Yeah, when Magid Musisi was training, he says, Yanga Kasuka, then he hits the ball into the net.
Okay.
So we lived there for some time. But at that time, I think I knew a lot of Luganda and not enough Lusoga. So my dad moves and gets a job in Mbale. He was a municipal education officer at the time, 1994. But I've learned over time that the finances at home were not very good at the time. Yeah, when the parents tell you their life story. So I was the first one to move with him to Mbale. So at the time, before moving to Mbale, after studying at Hill Road Public School, my parents moved us back, me and my elder brother, Rajab, he's a doctor. They moved us back to Iganga Boys Primary School. So I studied there for about...
That's boarding?
Yeah, boarding.
P1?
Yeah, P1. My brother had already gone to boarding, I think, in second or third term in P1. Yet he had studied in my mom's village. My mom is born in Busiki. It's in Namutumba district. And my dad is from Bugweri. They're neighboring districts.
I know Namutumba. We stayed there on our walk to Mbale.
Yeah, Busiki. If you get to Busembat, if you use the Mbale highway, just turn left, you'll be... Yeah, one of the things my mom's side are very proud is that you can drive on the tarmac from Kampala to home.
Yes. Because
the tarmac goes right to the home. Yeah. It doesn't feel a bit like the dust of my dad's side. So I'd been at Hill Road Public School Then we moved to Iganga boys. But my brother had been there already, so I joined him. Very naughty child myself, but also struggled a lot to adjust. You know, you haven't been away from your parents, you didn't do nursery school, all these things. So everything my brother would handle. Everything from
what's the age difference between your brother?
My brother and I is 1 year.
Oh,
yeah.
So he was just old mentally.
He was old mentally.
Okay.
Yeah, he's been much older, I think, than every child of his age group. I think was a timekeeper of the entire primary school by P3. Yeah, timekeeper was a,
that's quite a luxurious
Yeah.
role at school. I mean,
yeah.
monitoring
Because
time, yeah.
in our primary school in Iganga boys, you are either the head prefect or the timekeeper. The other prefects, I don't remember what they were doing. Maybe later on the sports prefect. Yeah? Yeah, so when I joined, he used to help me out with everything because I was terrible. Terrible. I didn't know how to live on my own. And that carried on to a very long time of my life because I depended on him a lot growing up. So I'd been in Iganga boys, but later on I got to learn that the school fees was a bit of a struggle. So when my dad got a job in Mbale, where I was a municipal education officer, he moved with me, who was the younger one, as he settles his finances. Then my brother continued. But I was also quite sickly because I'd suffered pneumonia at the time. So my parents thought being in boarding school was going to be very hard. So that's how I ended up in Mbale. And I started at Fairway Primary School.
Mbale.
Yeah, P4. Now, the best part of primary school in P4 was the fact that the World Cup.
94.
94 World Cup.
Yes, sir.
So I used to miss school because I had to take 6-hour injections. Yeah. PPF. Very painful. Yeah. Sometimes the nurse, but most of the times my dad. Because my dad had studied at university. He had studied something that I think is botany, zoology or something. So I think he had learned how to treat. His technique from treating animals, transferred that to
you.
To me. Very innovative guy.
Yeah.
So sometimes he would, when he's away at work, a nurse would come. When I'm up at 2 a.m. to take an injection, he would do that. Then in the morning before he leaves. So I would go to school sometimes. A lot of the time I would skip school because of illness. Now, luckily, by being home, the World Cup was happening, June, July. So, because my dad had noticed how much I used to love sport and all, he bought me a book, Ladybird, yeah? And I would spend a lot of the time, that Ladybird World Cup book, I would write lineups, scores, so he would be sleeping most of the time. But because I'd been home most of the day sleeping, I was able to watch those 3 a.m., 5 a.m. games comfortably at that age.
So you had TV in P4?
Yeah, that's the first time actually I got color TV. It was national brand. I cannot forget it. Tiny, but that's the first time my parents owned a color television. Because previously we used to have a TV. We even had a song about it as children. It was called Hongmei. It was red. The exterior was red. And it was black and white. So in 94, my dad bought a color TV. So I would sit down and write the lineups, Mazinho, Zinho, Serginho, Baggio, Valderrama. So those names. By the end of 94, all these things would come up very easily. But I also remember that before that, in 1992, during the Euros, while we had a black and white TV, we had neighbors, Catholics, very respectful family, because we're Muslim, our neighbors were Catholic. So one of the things at the time, when they would invite us for something like Christmas, they would get extra saucepans. So they would cook, because they would cook stuff that we wouldn't eat. Yeah, the respect, the respect we had.
Yeah.
But they had a color TV before we did. So I remember 1992 as we used to go there to watch movies. Our parents were a bit stiff, yeah? Teachers, civil servants. So they used to have movies that we didn't have. Then there was that Euro 92. I remember looking at the TV. I didn't know what was happening. I honestly didn't. But I know there was a final. And there was this black guy crying at the end of the final. Later on, I would learn that was Rod Hullit, because Netherlands had lost in that final to Denmark. So that is like you get to learn sport. But I've been going to the stadium to watch Villa every other day because...
I mean, you're in Mbale. Where you're watching Villa?
No, 92. I'm going back 2 years to 92, still in Masaka.
Okay.
Yeah. That's the first time I'd seen color TV. Then 94.
Do you know how lucky you were? Some of us who did not grow around this area, we got to watch our very first game when the Toro FC, Toro United, was in the league. And then when Toro would host games, then you'd watch. Then you see Jackson Mayanja. But most of the watching, in quotes, was in the newspapers and on Radio Uganda.
Yeah, and while we're watching, while I got the chance to watch the 94 World Cup on color TV, is that when our dad got home like this, most of the time, the one thing we used to run for was the newspaper.
So you are here, there. Where are your sisters and how many are you guys? Yeah. How did you live together? How did you fight for food?
We were... Our family, I would say my parents were very strict, very, very strict. When my mom watches this, she'll be thinking, our mom was very tough, very, very tough. Growing up, our late grandmother actually used to call my mom Commander. Yeah, because when she says, do this, there is no second opinions. Yeah, and we were very many, and we all lived together. While I was in Mbale, all my siblings would come and live with us. By then, my elder sister, Dr. Sarah, was in Navisunsa in high school already. Like I said, I was with Rajab in the same, my elder brother, Dr. Rajab, were in the same space most of the time. My late sister Farida, by then, was in she was in a school called Nalinya Rwantali.
That's one name?
Yeah, Nalinya Rwantali. It's in Luwera as you get to JSS. The headmaster, I think, was called Mr. Muzere. It was a Musoga headmaster, and my dad used to have an inclination for someone who is a Musoga and Muslim. Yeah, those were very, very important values to him. So my sister by then was studying at Nalinya Rwantale Farida. And our younger sisters, the twins, they are the ones who did nursery school. Yeah, they started at a nursery school called Konoweka. Masaka Nursery. It's somewhere in Masaka. Then they've been to other schools, Bishop Dungu. It's Chamaganda between Masaka and Mbarara on that road. Yeah, my parents, I think, having been teachers and having not to be home at every single time, they preferred we went to boarding school. Yeah, because then they would work out their 3 months and know when to be around. And then there is also their value for education. Yeah. For them, education is everything. That's why we are raised that you go to school, do well in school, you'll get a job, and then life will be okay. That was it. Of course, life has proven a lot different.
So your first real experience of the game in Masaka, and then a 94 World Cup in Mbale, and then you go through, I think, Iganga boys, then Kibuli.
Now after 94, after that World Cup, in 1995, you remember in 95 I started at Fairway Primary School. 95, then I go back to Iganga boys. I rejoined Iganga boys for P5, P6, P7. My brother was then already ahead of me. Now in 95, I go to watch the school's championship, this Copa Coca-Cola. the final in Mbale. Now I'd gone back for holidays in Mbale because my dad worked there. So when we went back for the holiday, during that holidays when that schools championship was happening, the final was between Kibuli SS and Nagalama Islamic.
Oh, yes.
Full stadium. Sheikh Kaket, I think, was in charge, was the headmaster at Nagalama Islamic, and then Hajabas Kawas was headmaster in Kibuli. Kibuli beat Nagalama 3-1. I went home and told my dad I'm going to Kibuli.
And he asked why? Did he?
He asked why. Said, I watched them, they just hammered another school. Yeah, in the schools champion. That's how I made my decision to go to Kibuli SS. But also I had, then by the time I finished primary school, my elder brother, Dr. Rajab, had gone to Budo, King's College Budo, So he went to Budo. By the time I got to P7, my mind was, but why don't I go to Budo? Why don't I shoot for the stars? Because in our generation, I don't know whether it's the same now, the school we admired the most was Budo. And you had to be an excellent A student to go there. Aggregate 4, at most 5 if you do perform very badly. So when Rajab went and started telling me stories about Budo as I was still in primary school, I changed my mind. I said, but I think I can get 4 and go to Budo. Eventually, I think when my parents sat through it, they're like, Ismail has spent his entire life depending on Rajab. Yeah. He needs to go to another school where he's independent. And that was the end of the discussion. So we retreat to Kibuli. Yeah. And that's how eventually I ended up in Kibuli. I think I'd got the grade to go to Budo because 5 was sufficient, but the conversation had died. Yeah, so
you go to Kibuli, which is synonymous with football.
Yeah.
And for some reason, you get out of it with no football.
Yeah, the talent was not there. Growing up, when I was growing up, especially around the league in Masaka, there was kids playing around. Like every kid in Uganda, you play some football. Even my children play, but I can't tell whether they are talented or not. Yeah, right now. Then in Mbale, we had a very huge compound. Yeah, those colonial houses given to civil servants. Where we lived, we had a very huge compound. So we even had a football pitch inside the home. So we'd gather the entire village and play. And I think now when I look back, I was the least talented kid in that group because I'd most of the time end up in goal.
You chose safety.
I'd end up in goal or at right back. And I've realized over time, right back, Sivano, umpira guba mutono, most of them.
Apart from Kafu.
Apart from Trent.
Okay.
Apart from Trent. So I realize now when I look back and the kids we played with, I was always at either in goal or at right back. We had a pitch that was fairly, maybe a quarter of a pitch. That's how huge the compound was. Because the compound was big enough that we had a football pitch and there was a garden of maize. And we used to rear a lot of chicken. And all this is inside the compound, not having to go out to a farm. And so when I look back, maybe I wasn't very, very talented. But my later life in primary school, Iganga boys, introduces cricket as a child. Now that was my first interaction. Because playing football was very, very competitive in Iganga boys to get onto the team or to even play for your class because every kid wanted to be there. So I went to cricket. So while like among the pioneers, I went, learned the rules, learned everything around the game. But I did not still play well enough. But when Iganga boys introduced cricket, there wasn't a primary schools cricket week. Primary schools weren't competing, but they had introduced it for the children. So I started to play and be around the game. But my ability to grasp the rules helped me more than the other children in my age group. So I ended up being a reference for the rules, for the names. Like I'd been even with the football. Yeah, because when with the football, if you needed to find out a player at Coventry City at the time, I'll still be the reference.
And you get that from reading newspapers?
Yeah, most of it was reading newspapers. Then I think by the time I finished primary school, my brother had been in Budo, and then he had started listening to BBC Sports World. So he introduced me to that too. Yeah. Then I started also listening religiously. So you'd spend your Saturday afternoon listening. Then also pay television. Pay television had just come to Uganda, so you get a chance to watch some football. But most of it was reading. Yeah, reading, because most of the players I learned initially, and I always preferred players with long hair. So I was very sad when Baggio ballooned that.
Including Higuita?
Yeah,
the goalkeeper?
Higuita. And even those in the late 90s, the Crespos,
Yes.
Enrico Chiesa, the father to Federico. Yeah, those were all players we learned during that time. A young Hernan Crespo coming through. So you started getting that interaction. But even when you're not reading, we had a very wonderful television called UTV. They used to show everything. And I love TV. I used to love TV 30 years ago. I love TV today. That's why I'm not into this streaming, whatever.
You want your set.
I love my TV.
Yeah.
I want my TV on. And that even no compromise, even with the children. Yeah, I love my TV that much.
You must be the only adult who fights with children for TV.
Yeah, I do, and win every time. So my interaction then goes into television. UTV used to show us UEFA Cup. They used to show us the Champions League. They used to show us Roland Garros, the tennis. They used to show us athletics. By then, what was called the Golden League, before it became the Diamond League. They used to show the Olympics, not all in its entirety, UTV at the time, because the TV initially, it used, when a child hears this, they will be shocked. UTV used to open at 6 p.m. and close at midnight.
Yeah, the curtains would literally close.
Yeah.
Then
later on, they started opening at 1 p.m. and closing at midnight. Then they pushed 10 a.m. to midnight.
Like, how does the TV close?
People used to work. I've interviewed people who used to work at UBC, and it's maybe it was a technology then. Sometimes they explained the machines could not. Yeah.
They needed to cool.
Yeah, they needed to cool down, those kind of things. So my interaction with sport was largely that. But also, I also used to go to the stadium because my dad was a KCC fan.
Okay.
So my dad would take us to the stadium, especially myself and my brother Rajab. Then also at some point before I turned 10, my elder sister, Dr. Sarah, also loved sport and sadly supports Arsenal. So she would also take us to the stadium.
Quite sad.
Until she broke her leg in a riot at a stadium in Masaka. Then I think that's around 93. There was a fight between Villa and Express. Yeah. And she broke her leg. She stopped going to the stadium since then. So I think that's when this...
So your family may not have played sport, but they love it. Because even your younger sisters, the twins, are into sport.
They're into sport, but they love the picture side because they love sports.
And the baseball.
Yeah. My dad played a bit. He tells us in Mwiri, he used to play, he was a wicket keeper and also a goalkeeper in Busoga College.
Goalkeeper.
Yeah. Says a lot. Yeah. So he played a bit. The rest of us, no, not really.
So all this time, do you have an idea that one day you talking and narrating stories about sport will make you a living?
No. Maybe we need better career guidance. Because by the time I'm in senior one in Kibuli, I was already an encyclopedia, to be honest. Some of my classmates,
for sports. Yeah.
Some of my classmates, like Aisha Nasang, one of the I interacted with very early in my life, the Elvis Senono, Semwami Yakub, Katumba, they've all taken several careers, Mustafa, and many of them, Hamza Sematimba. Is that even by senior one, I was the consultant. I was the guy, if you needed something about sports, you'd move around the entire school looking for me. Because I'd either have read, I would have taken time and watched, or I would even keep a book and write down things when the Fimbo Mokasas were coming through, the Hassan Mubirus, even foreign football, the Premier League at the time, I used to be the guy who people in S4 and S5, S6, there used to be a huge divide between senior. But at least I used to be the guy that people would come looking for. If you need something about sports, I don't know that I always told the truth. Yeah, but, but
did you know Mark Sully at the time?
No.
Because as you're speaking, I'm seeing Mark Sully. I'm like, this is a clone of Mark Sully. He will be on the show as well. He'll share his story. But that's the kind of guy, like you'll get out of your way. Personally, I would also go to the library. You know, you support a team because you're seeing their picture and all. And that's how literally you grew into the game, the sports.
Yeah, but I learned a lot of, because even up to now I read. I watch a football game or cricket or
but
like
golf,
but I have to read. After watching the match, I prefer I read about how people have told the story of the game. But not only sport now. Even if I sat down and watched Donald Trump on television, or President Museveni, or Lord Mayor Lukwago, I am of the habit that after watching, I want to see how Daily Monitor reported the story, how New Vision reported the story, how someone else wrote, what did they make out of what the person actually said. So that reading thing has really stayed with me, especially with the news. But I always preferred to go and read. And remember, because of the turnaround time of printing press in Uganda at the time, maybe now it's slightly much quicker. If a game happened today, you'd only read about it on 2 days later, 48 hours. So you'd need all that time lag. Sometimes we'd even have learned the result. While radios were banned when I was in Kibuli SS, is that you had the opportunity to listen to Sports World on Saturday illegally. You had a radio, so you would listen and then eventually have to read about the game. Of course, later on, they introduced a television in the main hall and what, so you would have a chance to watch some of the games. Or, at best, you would have to go to a teacher's residence and find someone in the teacher's home who you convince to leave the curtain slightly open, and you would watch the game through the curtain.
All of us watched the whole football match with one eye.
Yeah, through the curtain.
Yeah.
One of those I remember fondly, watching through the curtain that I wouldn't forget, was Chelsea versus Barcelona at the Camp Nou in 1999. Chelsea had won the first leg 3-1 at Stamford Bridge. Then they go and take the lead at the Camp Nou through Torandre Flo. Barcelona came back and scored and won the game 3-1 in regulation, and the game went into extra time. Eventually, Barcelona won the game 5-1. Rivaldo, I think, missed a penalty and took another in that game. The game ended 5-1 eventually. I watched that through the curtain, almost on my toes for the entire game. There was a warden he was called Mr. Sejemba in Kibuli. So his house was closest to where I stayed in Aga Khan. So we went to his home and the curtain was half.
Was he aware you guys were there?
No, he wasn't. So luckily, we watched the entire game through that. It was memorable. Then, after watching the game, because it was so compelling, Figo, Rivaldo, Patrick Kluivert were all in that team. I think Guardiola had left at the time. They were all in part of that Barcelona side that won 5-1. The famous Barcelona side that British media used to say comes down with Christmas decorations, because it would be brilliant September to December, then collapse in the second part of the season. That year, I think I even won the league because we were celebrating 100 years in 99. But I was so eager to read about the game that when the librarian brought the newspapers, I think I was the first person to get to them. Then New Vision had this big headline, "Murder in the Cathedral." I can imagine Kenneth Andrew Matovu, the late, coining that, yeah? Later on learning that he was editor at the time. "Murder in the Cathedral." I could forget a million headlines. if you cut off my head, I would still remember that headline.
So
The description of the Camp Nou being a cathedral, 26 years
it
ago,
paints a special picture.
a special picture of the entire game. Yeah.
So Ismail, you go through Kibuli, of course, enjoying all the games. You're lucky you were at the stadiums to catch these games.
Yeah.
You go to Makerere. In my mind, I'm wondering, with all this reading, all this encyclopedia, all this knowledge about sports,
Career guidance.
what do you decide to study at Makerere?
Because after Kibuli, I was expelled, went to Kako SS.
Okay.
Yeah. From Kako SS, I go to St. Louis College Kitovu. Kitovu in Masaka is where I did
A-level.
my A-level.
So it's just O-level, Kibuli, then...
Yeah. I've been to several schools.
Okay.
You'll see primary, I said Hill Road, Fairway, Iganga Boys. My high school is also 3 schools. Chibuli, Kako SS, and then...
Is that where you found
Tony Maweji? Yeah, that's when we met. That's how I met Tony Maweji.
Okay.
Was with him for 2 terms, then he left. He left Kako SS. He had struggles with school fees and then went to Masaka SS, yeah, where there was a scholarship to play football. Yeah, but that's where I did my senior 4 in Kako. Then I went to Kitovu, St. Louis College Kitovu. I would say the best school I ever attended. The best school I ever attended, I can repeat that. And then from Kitovu, I was the best student in economics. When I wasn't number 1, I was number 2 with a gentleman called Dennis Namara. These days his pockets are deeper than mine, but we all studied this.
Career guidance.
No, his career is NRM, sorry.
Okay. That's explanatory.
Yeah. So Dennis Namara and I would either be number 1 or number 2 in economics. Namara has since gone into politics, NRM Youth League. I think he's carrying the flag for somewhere in Buyaga, yeah, for Member of Parliament. He's been in East Africa Legislative Assembly. One of the last times I saw him, he had a new car and it had Obuvera.
Full of money?
No, Obuvera, the brand new car. They come with wrapping.
Yes,
yeah.
Still wrapped, yeah.
He hadn't pulled off the wrapping, so I was joking and telling him, you guys.
I hope he remembers you.
No, he does. He can't.
Okay.
We've had a relationship.
So there are 2 major economists in you and him.
Yeah. And I'm still very skewed by the economics. I'm not an investment analyst or expert or anything. But when I started doing very well in economics, I told myself, this would be easy for me. So if I go to Makerere, I'll do BA Econ. That's how I ended up going there. Maybe if someone had seen how talented I was, I could have done journalism straight away, because I started journalism later on in my life. But also,
but by that you mean you did a first degree in
economics,
and then mass communication.
Mass communication. Yeah. No, mass communication, undergraduate. Then I've gone back to MBA.
Yeah, you have quite some good energy there.
Yeah. So I ended up with economics somehow because I'd been excellent at it. But remember, I didn't study these things, history, geography. I'd read the books, but I'm a sciencer. Because in high school, I studied physics, economics, and math. Because I'm also an excellent math student from a very early age.
How good are you at counting money?
One of the things that shocks me is that despite being very good at math, I've struggled with accounting at university. When I was at Makerere, I struggled with it. When I've done my master's, I've struggled with accounting as a course unit. When you bring managerial accounting, my head starts to spin. Debit, credit, debit, loss account, So I struggle with it. But then if you bring this conventional math, forget this accounting. So I thought, okay, economics and math will be very easy. So I dropped one of my passions, that was physics, because I didn't think I had the grades to do engineering at the time. So I lost my physics. I love my physics, but I've not had the opportunity to study it beyond high school and practice it. And I think by A-level is when you start to see your actual strength, because that's when I started. So when I started to struggle a bit in school with class, because previously I used to be a student. Then by A level, obulamu butandika okwambula.
Life begins undressing you.
Yeah, it begins undressing you, and then you start to realize that maybe you're not as good as a student as you imagined. Then you end up at university, then life's pressures start, you start to attain your freedom. Because remember, all this time, it's entirely parents. Yeah, what your parent says or what is what you do. You might have transgressions. You'll escape from school. You will skip a class. You won't like morning prayer. But in the end, your parents are guiding whatever you do. Then the moment you break that barrier after high school, you have this freedom. Now, normally, we don't know what to do with that freedom.
Yeah.
That's when you start going astray. Yeah, if you're not
So while at campus, you're studying a degree in economics. You continue with the passion of sports. You're talking about it, reading about it. Are you as popular among your peers? Are they coming to you for questions here and there?
Very, very, very popular. So while I was at campus, I was in Nkrumah when I first joined. But when you join in first year,
a house that suits your character as naughty.
So when I was in Nkrumah, then I learned where the common room is, where you can use a remote. So I end up in the common room, and because I know how to use a remote quite well, I start watching cricket. That's when I met people like Dennis Musali. So they find someone who is watching cricket in the common room between India and Australia. But this guy was not in Mwiri, was not in Intare, was not anywhere. So they were shocked. But before they could get to learn who exactly I was, I left Nkrumah and went to Mitchell, because all my friends, Hillary, Davis, Hashim, were all in what? Mitchell. So I ended up in Mitchell. But then by then we had garnered enough clout to control the TV remote. So we decide what we were going to watch. We are going back to 2007 by then. So I remember we used to watch a Cricket World Cup very late in the night, because it was in the West Indies. So you had to go to the common room in the dining hall, or you would call it, and watch the Cricket World Cup late in the night. Or you control to watch La Liga at 10 p.m. All this Premier League and all, you decide. Then whenever you have a bit of extra resources, you jump onto a taxi and go to Nachivo to watch Villa. Because while the craze about foreign football was growing, and at some point I lived in Chengera by 2001. I remember the place where we used to watch a Premier League, we were not even 5. I'm talking 2001. There were not 5 people. We used to watch at the balcony, then move to a hall. But still, I always found my way to go and watch Villa. So even at campus, when you're struggling, so you'd budget and say, okay, I need to go to Nachivubo. I have to pay 3K or 2K, or carry your ID. Sometimes when it's been announced on CBS that abana bayingirira bwerere, you're at campus, but you carry an ID for high school, so you can get in. Then you say, okay, 500 for taxi from Wandegea to town. Or then in the evening you walk. Yeah, Nachivubo wali, you obwanga.
I mean, you're young, you have the energy.
You have the energy, so you end up. But it was largely Villa and then Uganda Cranes, because I would miss all the other games.
All those I would watch on Radio Uganda. In quotes. Ismail, before we leave that, and I want us now to jump into the journalism proper.
Yeah.
Before we jump into that, you're still watching The Game of Life, and in studio I have someone who I didn't need to prepare for really, because we work together, we've lived together for some good time, and this is a guy, when he speaks sport, Ismail Dhakaba Kigongo, you listen. So glad to have you again, Ismail, on The Game of Life. Now, one thing for sure is, I've been asked this, I don't know if you've been asked. People ask me, people read your work and then they ask, did you do literature? I'm like, first of all, I thought it was too much work at the time, reading all those books. And I would read, but I want to read what I want, not what you're telling me to read.
Not Sidney Sheldon.
And yeah, those I read. But do people ask you whether you did literature?
People ask me, not necessarily literature. They ask about English in general.
Yeah.
How do you get to learn all this English without asking about the literature?
Yeah.
But if I go back throughout my high school, while I wasn't in the literature class, I read every literature book that the literature class was doing. Let's say, okay, so we started literature in senior one, then you had to, if you wanted to drop it, you drop it. The First Daughter by Goreti Chomuhendo. The Animal Farm, George Orwell.
Yeah.
Those we studied as part of the class. My teacher, Lydia Wanyoto, these days she's standing for Woman MP in Mbale. She taught us those. Then Great Expectations should be Charles Dickens. I think those are the ones we studied before we dropped literature. But while I wasn't studying literature, I retained an interest and continued to read literature books. So you'd end up reading Lion and the Jewel, Othello from the literature class, just as a pastime. So maybe it helps a bit. But remember, even when we're in A-level, I was a physics and math student. But still I would read. But also it had been, when you're a child of two teachers, you have no option other than reading something.
That teacher, mom teacher, then you also have teachers at school.
Yeah.
But in all this, has it crossed your mind yet that you can actually make a living out of this thing? Are you even thinking about becoming a journalist at the time, or you're studying to finish and go to Bank of Uganda or go somewhere and do the economic policy of the country? I
always felt I'm going to end up in banking.
Okay.
I also had an auntie at the time, she's deceased. She used to work in Bank of Uganda, and we used to admire her a lot growing up because she used to work in money. Not that she looked the money, but also she also, I think, dropped us some novels because she would tell us to read. Yeah, read something. So we would end up, but most of the time would be to my elder sister, Farida, who is also since deceased. So when she would give them a book to read, we'll also end up with the same book. So, but nothing like journalism. It never really occurred to me. It's until much later at university, we're almost done, and then you're starting to think, where is life going to go? Then you start to think, okay, I think I can try journalism. You start to have this self-righteous call. You listen to radio, you watch TV, and by then now television, and besides WBS where we used to watch sport on, you start to imagine you know more than the people on television and TV. Of course, besides Mark Sally and Joseph Kableta. Alan. Okay, before that, Kenneth Andrew Matovu, before he passed on. Yeah. Besides those, I'd listen to the rest and say, Ono Musinga. Because some of the time, let's say they will want to talk about international sport, you would have listened to Russell Fuller on the BBC. So you have an inside lane of what kind of shot, for example, for cricket, Michael Atherton played for England. Or you have an inside lane of what a story of John Alomu. Now you listen to radio here and you're thinking, no,
they're just going over it.
They are going over it. They don't not have a detail. You've started feeling like you have detail because my interaction with sport, like we said earlier, besides reading, for me was listening to the BBC. I used to listen to the BBC a lot every Saturday. And when some younger people used to ask me, how do you get all this? I was like, get your radio on Saturday between 5 and 8 p.m. You'll never be the same. That
was a golden time. Yeah. I don't know which radio you listened to. In Kampala, perhaps you had all these frequencies sorted. I had, I don't know if you know this original Sony radio, small, this size. Those were the radios up country, whereby you'd even get the capitals, Radio 1, Sai and all. That's the radio where BBC for me emitted. I don't know, you guys must have had everything here.
Yeah, by then we had moved to the city. We used to stay in Chengeda, where my mom lives up to now. By then you had access, but still my preference was BBC. That 5 to 8 p.m. because then I knew I'd learned sport beyond football, because I'd learned cricket at an early age. I was starting to learn rugby by listening to stories of the World Cup, 99.
And golf?
Golf, I learned it much later in life. Yeah. I'd started learning basketball. I have my mom's younger sibling, Agre David Chibenge. He was also a referee. He would take me to games for the football. And my interaction then would be with several people beyond my sphere. So by then, I knew that if I wanted to learn sport more than I know, BBC was it. So then you start to listen to people on radio and you're thinking, Onomusing.
Ismail, now, I would love to know, when do you walk into the newsroom? How do you get there? And who is that Ugandan journalist who inspired you to get there, if any?
My first story in the Daily Monitor ran on December 16th, 2007. I used to have friends, Davis, George is standing for MP somewhere in Bungoho, it's in Mbale. And Mustafa was my classmate from Kibuli. So we used to have arguments at Mitchell. I tell them stories about sport. So George told me, you start writing the ideas that you have. So they would correct and what. Then innocuously, you read the newspaper. I see Mark Sally's email. I see Mark Namanya's email. I write my articles. I send them to their email, hoping that maybe they'll respond.
Okay. They
did not respond in the immediate. So when they didn't respond, I'd go and print. After writing, print and drop it
at monitor,
at the reception. And write to the sports editor and all, hoping that they would respond. So innocuously, Mark Namanya responded and invited me to go and see what I could do. So get there, sent to the boardroom. Sandeva Shai, I think at the time, was one of the people on the desk. Sent the boardroom. Sunday speaks to me, says, "Hey, so you love sport, you want to write? Hey." That's how eventually I end up in the newsroom. December. It was even after Eid. Yeah, there had been an Eid at the time. And the first story they gave me to write was a ranking story, simple story.
That's a story everyone writes after campus.
After campus.
Monthly rankings.
Uganda ranked 16th in Africa. Yeah. So they work it out. Then by 2008, early 2008, because it was December, January, they realized I have a relationship with people around rugby. Edmond Tumusime, Andrew Mwanguhya, team manager of the national team. And most of my friends at university were in Amiliango. Yeah. And they remain, most of my friends were in Amiliango. So somehow I find my way into a sport, because when you walk into the newsroom, you must find something you can do consistently. So that's how I start. I start to write Cobs, Heathens, then you end up in the league. Then I think Mark Namanya has a way, he realizes very quickly that this person can actually write. So what we need to do is to ensure his sporting angles are okay. So realize, he actually jokingly told me one day that you learn English in primary school. If you cannot write well a composition by the time you come out of primary school, you're not going to learn it in a newsroom.
Yeah.
So that's how eventually I start writing. These days I don't write as much. Recently I wrote a story about Yasin Nasser winning the Africa Rally Championship, because I used to cover motorsport. So Mark then, Fred Musisi gets a liking for me. He starts to send me on assignments for rally. Yeah, I get involved with rally people. But I'd also been to a rally because I was in the same school with Leon Senyange. He was in Kitovu. So Leon had invited me to watch rally, because Leon is a passionate, he's an addict.
Yes.
He's an addict of rallying, from just gaming, PlayStation, motorsport, to all the motorsport. So it was also very easy for me to get into that space. And at the time, you're in the newsroom, you're a freelancer, all you want to do is write as many stories as possible and have a paycheck. Yeah? And my first paycheck was what, 130K? Yeah? It was a lot. Then it increased like to 430K. 430K was a lot of money. Yeah? I don't even remember what I did with that money. It's just coins you take home and enjoy.
And from then, of course, the newspaper gives you this platform to blossom into different directions. You do radio, you do commentary, and you started as a foot soldier. And as we speak, you head the entire
team,
team at Nation Media Group. How has been the transition?
It's been quite challenging, especially because also people I supervise are people I know. Some I started journalism with. So where to draw the line sometimes between work and friendship can be very hard. But one of the people who really taught me a lot about journalism was Michael Chigozi.
Yes.
I met Michael by going to the field because he was a reporter for Radio 1 and Akaboz. So Michael would always be struggling with his quota of stories that in sports. So he needed a sports story. So he would call me and I would have stories of rugby where I've been. So a few times when he was able to come to the field, he would have arguments about what has happened. So one day Michael tells me, Nayegwe, what about the way we argue here? We should come to radio and we'll argue the same way. It will work out. I told him no. Between the first time he told me, I think it was like 3 months before I went to radio. And I walked into studio Radio 1. The most nervous I've been. People are nervous at weddings and childbirth. You could have plucked my nails out that day.
Locker room.
A locker room.
Yeah.
2009. March or June. March 21st or something. You sit on the chair and you're shaking. You know what you're saying, but you're shaking. And everyone in the thing is quiet. Everyone in studio listening to you. So I imagine, what about those who are outside? What do they think? So Elvis, RS Elvis, you should host him.
Oh yes.
Very nice guy. Elvis Kalema. Walks into studio because he had been listening from outside and he works at Radio 1. He's a programs manager, I think, now.
Yes.
So he walks in and says, this young man is struggling. He gave me a trick during the break, said, Ismail, you know what, stand up. He told me, now, speak while standing. All the nerves will move to your legs.
Okay.
And your voice will be fine. It worked. The rest is history. The next weekend I go back to radio. I did it standing because I didn't want to get nervous. So Elvis's trick actually worked. Yeah, all the nerves move to your legs, then your voice is fine.
And
the rest is history.
It's quite strange that radio is more intimidating than TV.
Yeah.
This single mic alone, looking at it, I mean, you start sweating, you imagine listening to yourself, and the moment you start listening to yourself, you're done.
But I think sometimes I still remain nervous, even after all these years, because I've been doing radio and TV for 16 years, since 2009. But I think every time before I say my first sentence, I'm very, very nervous. Once I get that out of the way, sentence 1 to I'm like last week. Yeah, it's like I'm doing the same thing as last week. Then you start to realize there are people who appreciate you for it. There's so many people who say, I love that. And then, you forget all about the nerves. But I thought writing for Daily Monitor, and I think I'm a bit old school. I don't think you're a good journalist if you can't write.
Yeah.
If you can't write, I don't think you're a good journalist, because you must be able to tell a story and paint a picture without the pictures, without your voice. That if I've not met Andrew, and went and watched a game between Vipers and African Stars, if I read the script, can I tell the story? Now, personally, I struggle a lot with young journalists who have not written.
Yeah.
Because for me, writing is the basis of everything you do.
Would that be your advice to the journalists today?
Yeah, write something.
The young ones?
Yeah, I would.
Okay.
I'll tell them, write something.
Okay. This whole sport thing, how do you balance it with family?
First of all, I'm a home person. When I was younger, I used to hang out a lot. I used to party and go out every other time.
Should I tell the fans where you were the night I called you? But it's okay, proceed.
Yeah. I was at the beach.
At 11 p.m.
At 11 p.m., yeah.
Uh-huh.
And I'd watched a bit of Premier League. Then I said, let me go to the beach because...
So the people at home know this is you. They can't detach you from it. It's what it is. They live with it.
I inconvenience them quite a bit because my children now are getting into their, you'd say, formative years. So they have a lot. They are more inquisitive than they were 2-3 years ago. Even when I'm watching like football, they want to watch and ask questions. If I tell them I'm going to Mbale or Chitende, they want to come, and so it can be challenging. But luckily, after I turned about 32, which is many years ago, I'm home. You're very likely, if someone lied to you that they found Ismail somewhere, they are lying. Because even the beach I was telling you about, I'll go perhaps once in 3-4 months. Because most of the time, work, home, my TV, my internet. That's it. Yeah. And I'm very likely to go to bed at 2 a.m. or 1 a.m. And as I'm in bed, because I've been following a lot of sport, then I'm thinking, what did Trump say today? Because then I have to check.
Many things you share there.
On the BBC or CNN, the media houses that you don't like for their bias.
Okay.
Yeah.
You've qualified it.
Yeah. But I'll always, it's very, and maybe people need, until someone knows and understands you. Sometimes I'll be in bed at 1 a.m. and I'm reading a news story, about, let's say, South Korea and the opening of that Hyundai factory where people were arrested by ICE. And I'm reading that at 1 because I've not had time to read it, during the day. I've been following up on sports content. So, but I spend most of my time at home. Most of the time, yeah.
Ismail Dhakaba Kigongo, you can speak for 2 days straight, non-stop. But also, your fans, the people who follow you, and those of us who appreciate you for what you do, and we'll still do more. You'll come back to the game of life, and we'll talk more. There's several things that perhaps you haven't talked about today.
I haven't even spoken about life in the newsroom.
Life in the newsroom,
yeah.
But we have one last segment before we come to it where we get to wrap up things. I would love to tell our viewers for the game of life. There is a very specific statistic which has caught my attention in the back end of the Game of Life YouTube channel. Quite a number of views, and thank you very much. 65% watch, follow everything, but they are not subscribed. The other, what's the math there? 35?
Yeah, 35%.
35 are subscribed. So if you see the value in it and you watch it, please be kind enough to subscribe, because it's those small favors and very good support that helps us keep going, and also bringing the very best of the guests on the Game of Life. So when you watch, or when you see the video of the Game of Life make rounds, please go on the YouTube channel, subscribe, follow us on all social media handles. As long as you say Game of Life Andrew, it will all pop up. So the gentleman in studio for me is quite remarkable because of what he has achieved and what he continues to. And for those who follow him and want to do journalism, he's the right guy. And by the way, it's not just sports. The template is the same. He has quality elsewhere, because you also do write editorials for the Monitor as well.
Yeah, now, I do write quite a bit.
As we wind up, there's that special segment we call Passing the Torch. But before we go into that, in a nutshell, Ismail, how has your experience been with the newsroom, and we don't have the whole day. But I know it's quite, I've experienced it myself. But the newsroom, how would you paint it out for someone out on the street who sees the newspaper and they're like, how do these people meet? Do they just send things from elsewhere? So that life in the newsroom.
One of the things is that journalism, the way it's structured, I think I cannot speak for many other media houses because my understanding of journalism has been entirely Nation Media Group. There's a lot of freedom to think and do what you want. Not only freedom in what you write or what you think, but even with your time. It's not an 8 to 5. Like when you're raised by teachers like I was, and I make a huge reference to my parents, is that we're raised to do an 8 to 5 job. And it's not like that. Also, in the newsroom, you must find your voice. You must find your voice where someone, you can only be a good journalist if you can be a reference. That someone, your editor or a reader, is going to say, if I want something about fishing, this is the guy. If I want something about environmental conservation, this is the guy. If I want something about Dr. Kiza Besigye or oil, this is the guy who has covered him. I think that's the one thing I've found in the newsroom. You must assert yourself in a way that you become a reference for something. Because you may never able to do everything. The other challenge, the other thing that I've also learned is that you must be very daring to try out things. When you have these fellowships, if you get a chance to make yourself better, I think it's very important you get better every day. If you get a chance, we normally, you walk in the newsroom and you're 22 or 23. If you have a chance to do your masters and an opportunity, don't skip it. Those may hold in good stead. The relationships you build with people are very, very critical. There are people who I first spoke to because of journalism, but today our relationship is way beyond that. It's very, very, very important that those relationships are kept. People call it networking. I wouldn't call it that. It's just relationships. Those relations are very, very important.
Ismail, we have our beautiful segment that ends the show. It's called Passing the Torch. I don't know if you have something general you would love to pass, but in terms of journalism, passing the torch, perhaps the message you've just given out qualifies for it, or you have a general message, piece of advice you'd love to give people who watch this show?
Read. When you read, you learn something. These days, the craze about video, I understand that. You can have your Netflix, your Prime, your Amazon. Read. You don't even, and when people say read, maybe they look at these big books here. Most of them are very misleading, actually, because they're...
A Liverpool and Argentina fan is speaking. And,
those are very misleading, but you don't even have to read a lot.
Yes.
I'm imagining, read a page. Something you find interesting. If you're interested in food or banking, just go look at one page. I think over time, these days I don't read as much as I used to. But if you phone me in my space, sometimes I lock myself in the bedroom and let the children away. At least I am reading, and some of the stuff now these days I read is not even, if it's not sport, I read a lot about African politics. Sometimes I want to understand where we are, so I have to read about why Ghana hated Nkrumah when he was alive and love him now. Those kind of things interest me. Like Patrice Lumumba and Zaire, those and these transitions. The other day when people protested in Bangladesh and overthrew the Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, that's when I went to read about and understood her family. Her father was an independence fighter, first prime minister of Bangladesh after independence. The family was raided and murdered. Luckily, Sheikh Hasina was out of the country. That's how she eventually comes back and becomes the leader of the party of her father. And then, so these kind of things, sometimes I have a lot of knowledge that I do not need, that I'll never even share. Because I always joke with young journalists that, you see, I watch a lot of cricket. But 95% of the shows that I do, I don't even talk about it.
Yeah, more reason we need to write a book. Books.
I need a certain kind of resource envelope that I haven't arrived at to write a book.
Absolutely.
If you're going to inspire people with a book, they must find you, and by the look, you look inspiring.
Okay, makes sense. Ismail Dhakaba Kigongo. If you were coming from my home, I would have added a pet name. They give you a moat, right?
My name is Apuli.
Apuli.
It was actually given to me by a grandmother of my friend Hilary.
Apuli. That's my dad's.
2003. That's when I got my pet name.
Ismail Dhakaba Kigongo, just so you know, you are the first guest from the media in terms of journalism on the Game of Life.
What an honor.
Yeah.
You should just Andrew Mwanguhya.
Just so you know, I have a long list of people.
Yeah.
He's definitely on it.
You should just Andrew.
Andrew Mwanguhya, my namesake.
Yeah.
Now,
he would jump at it. I don't think he would say no.
Of course, Andrew Mwanguhya is a good interview any day, anytime.
Yeah.
Anytime. But
he will provoke and make people groan and switch off their data and get up.
Just so you know, we are so grateful to have had you.
Thank you.
We had Irene Ocho, the former program director, Radio 1 and Legend as well, but that's from the different kind of media.
She also taught some of my classmates.
At Subi?
Yeah,
yes.
Literature, I think.
Literature, including Max Ali. And there are stories of how they used to wait in the windows to see this pressure from university. So it's been nice, Ismail Dhakaba. I don't know, how has been the experience of being asked questions?
It was actually, in the end, very enjoyable. I speak about everyone else except myself. I speak about everyone else except myself. So to have a chance to talk about myself is a lot different. The only people I get to tell stories about myself is my children, my fiance, not many other people. So this is so different. It's so different from everything that I do every single day. Because even as I did this interview, I'm thinking about what story I'll put first.
The good thing is this interview is just the start.
Yeah.
We will come back at some point. You're still writing more chapters of life. But for honoring us to be here, thank you so much for your time.
And I'm a viewer, loyal viewer of Game of Life.
Thank you. And the twins.
Yeah.
They're Game of Lifers. Yeah. Amina and Babidi. I still can't figure who is who. Just that, like, I can't figure.
Amina has a scar on her
okay.
forehead.
Okay, so if she's facing the other way, there's no way I can tell.
Yeah, but, and she has a story about that scar.
I will tell it.
Yeah.
Ismail Dhakaba Kigongo. This has been the Game of Life. Thank you so much. And for everyone watching the Game of Life, please, thank you for the support. Continue supporting. And I have enjoyed speaking to my colleague and friend Ismail Dhakaba Kigongo. Perhaps the only thing that we disagree on is the clubs he supports and the ones that I support. But at the end of the day, we are Ugandans and we love each other. Thank you very much. Go to the channel YouTube and subscribe. And this is the Game of Life.